Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is D back again with another movie review, and this time I'm going to be talking about the 2001 David Lynch directed movie Mulholland Drive. Right now, Mulholland Drive is starring Naomi Watts. Laura Harring is in this. Robert Forster makes an appearance in this. Who else is in this? Billy Ray Cyrus. I was, surprised to see him. Billy Ray Cyrus makes an appearance in this film. So there's quite a few kind of notable people that are in this movie. But this is a movie that up until maybe within the last year or so was never really on my radar. But I was always kind of aware of it in the peripherals. I had, heard the movie mentioned in passing before, but never paid any attention to it. Within the last year or so, though, I've watched a lot of videos just relating to movies, and it's come up a lot. And a lot of the things I've heard about it have kind of piqued my curiosity and made me a little more intrigued about checking out the movie. It kind of seemed like a movie I might actually like quite a bit, so I figured I'd give it a watch. So I've been kind of trying to do this review. So but about a week ago I watched it for the very first time, and so these are kind of my thoughts about the movie. Now, I guess quickly about the plot. A woman is in a car. She's riding in a limousine and she's in a car accident. She survives the car accident but can't remember anything. She basically has amnesia, and she stumbles and kind of walks and finds her way to a home that she pretty much sneaks inside of and just kind of goes to sleep, just for some shelter. And by chance, skipping a lot of details, by chance she meets Naomi Watts' character Betty, who is a transplant to LA, who's very bright-eyed and innocent and has dreams of being a successful Hollywood actress. And she's in LA now, basically homesteading for her aunt. And she finds Laura Harring's character, who, names herself Rita. So, and Betty decides to help Rita figure out who she is because she has amnesia. She can't remember anything. So Betty decides to try to help her. This is the beginning kind of setup plot of the film, but the movie changes, it morphs, it evolves. And that's really just the beginning stages of the film, and it really goes to some other kind of other places. So I won't go into, really all of that. It might not, I don't know if it's right to talk about spoilers or not talk about spoilers, or if you can even say that you've talked about spoilers by even talking about this movie, because a lot of it is really left up to the viewer to kind of interpret some things about what they think certain things mean and what's connected to what. So it's a very surreal, dreamlike movie, and that's actually what I liked about the movie. That was kind of the most entertaining aspect of the film, was the dreamlike, surreal nature of the film. Also, like I said, I had heard a lot about this movie before seeing it, so I kind of knew what to expect going in. I do feel like if you're somebody who's expecting just this straightforward, linear, easy to follow, just by the numbers kind of movie, you might find yourself kind of lost and then make the mistake of trying to find your way out of that confusion and trying to corral and kind of control the movie, or try to find certain things that aren't really even meant to be found. This isn't a movie where you gotta try to connect every dot in terms of following traditional plot points, because then you'll find yourself lost and confused. It's more of like I said, it's very dreamlike in the way that it kind of clearly just exists, but you can't really find its origins. Every scene is kind of there. Like as I think about the movie, like when I recollect on the film, the feeling is very similar to when I try to recollect on a dream, when I try to remember a dream and kind of explain what happened in a dream, and it doesn't really make sense, but I'm accurately explaining what happened. It's the same way when I kind of think about this movie, and it's very dreamlike. It's like a collection of vignettes, a collection of scenes, though there are plot through lines that are consistent, at least through the first portion of the film, because things do kind of change midway through the movie, there are some kind of consistent through lines basically surrounding Betty and Rita and their characters and what their initial kind of quest is. That stays consistent. But a lot of things, scene to scene, really kind of change and just have this dream-like quality. Certain scenes happen that are never referred to ever again. There's characters that have kind of what seem like pivotal, important moments, and maybe are, but you never see those characters again, or they're never referred to ever again later on in the film. There's multiple scenes that I can think of where you kind of never really return to those scenes or reference back to those scenes later on in the movie, even though those scenes take up relatively significant amount of time for just a single scene, take a relatively significant amount of time in the movie and are memorable and seem and feel pivotal, but never referenced again later on in the film. And that's, that happens in this film. You just kind of have to kind of go with the flow of the film. I enjoyed the film. I do think this movie is very worthy of a rewatch. This is like the further I get away from the viewing of the movie, the more I start to think back to the movie and reference back to the movie and kind of have a desire to watch it again. It's just, there's something kind of about it. Now, one thing I will say, and I should mention this is kind of goofy, but I watched this movie when I was already dead tired. So late at night, dead tired from the day, and I did fall asleep at least 2 points, and I had to rewind back and I woke up, movie was going on, I rewound back to the last thing I remembered, kept watching. That happened twice. All right, I was tired. And the thing about this movie, because of how dreamlike and surreal it is, if you're already super tired when you start watching this, it'll help you go to sleep, actually. So, which, isn't a good thing if you're actually trying to watch the movie, which is what I was trying to do. But I gotta say, that's part of also why I want to give this a rewatch, because even though I did wake up from the little doze off and rewound back and watched it and technically finished the movie and watched all of it, anytime you fall asleep multiple times in the middle of a film, there's this feeling of incompleteness. Even if you rewound back, it's like, did I really catch everything? Because the flow got interrupted. So I want to rewatch the movie. So I do feel I need to rewatch this movie. Positive points about the movie besides the, like I said, surreal, dreamlike atmosphere and mood of the film. I do think Naomi Watts gave a great performance. Everybody gives a good acting performance, but hers was the standout performance. There's a moment in this movie where you're basically watching an actor portray an actor portraying somebody else. So it's very it's a surreal moment of watching an audition on a movie set, and the acting was great. She was great in the scene. It was a very effective moment. It was also like a moment where the acting was so good that for a split second you kind of forget what you're watching, like which movie you started watching. So great performance from her. She's an actress that I've always been aware of her, but I never really truly focused in on her. I'm very certain I've seen movies of hers, but I almost can't even name them right now just off the top of my head. But she has such a familiar kind of name that I feel like I've seen her work before, but this is the first time where she actually stood out on the screen to me, where I noticed her and her ability. Now, I think maybe that just means I actually haven't seen a lot of her films, because maybe she does that in every film. But I was actually very impressed by her acting in this movie. So Naomi Watts was a standout performer, even though Laura Harring, she does a good performance as well. But I do feel in the end, Naomi Watts actually had more that she had to do. She had a wider range of things she had to convey on the screen, particularly considering that she's actually portraying an actress in the movie. So she's almost doing double duty from an acting perspective, at least for a moment. Also, too, I want to mention about regarding Naomi Watts and her acting. Another thing that I was impressed with just regarding her acting was how convincing she was as a wide-eyed, innocent, aspiring actress. Just there was a few moments in the movie where I actually kind of it really stood out to me, where I kind of noticed, like, man, she is really selling this wide-eyed innocent thing very well. And I gotta, now, if I remember, this was kind of one of her more earlier acting performances, so maybe that was more of just a natural, like her natural newness shining through or something like that. But I noticed that in quite a few moments about her acting in terms of portraying Betty. Like, she really sold the whole innocent, wide-eyed, good-natured, new to LA, girl next door, I guess, if you want to put it like that. So, yeah, I was impressed with her acting performances, just in multiple kind of ways. She really, like I said, she ran the full gamut in a way in terms of types of characters, or not, maybe not the full gamut, but a wide range of kind of types of characters was on display from Naomi Watts in this movie. So she's a strong point. And so I do think I should mention a little bit about the whole sequence with the diner and, the two guys talking in the diner, discussing the man's dream or nightmare, night terror that he's been having. And then, what happens in the back of the diner, all of that type of stuff. That whole sequence, and I've seen in a few places it get talked about, discussed mainly for its effectiveness on a horror level. People talking about it being scary, one of the scariest scenes that they've seen in a movie. And I do think it's a very creepy scene. I will say that the actual visual, the image of that bum's face, I've seen that in passing a lot of times prior to ever seeing this movie, just on like kind of social media, and just, sometimes in search engines you're looking for something else and you'll see, a lot of photos come up, and that might be one of the photos, especially doing a lot of, I do a lot of horror reviews. And, in the course of looking for certain things, you see images of other things that are semi-related, but not related. And that bum's face would sometimes pop up. So it wasn't the most shocking thing for me, because it's like, seeing a face, a monster that you've actually seen quite a bit before. And then it being put in a position where it's supposed to be new to you, when it's actually, I've seen it before. So it wasn't quite as, the creepiness and the tension leading up to the reveal and the way the reveal was executed was what was impressive for me and effective for me. But the actual face of the bum wasn't really the most, realistically speaking, wasn't really the most horrifying thing, ever seen on film. But the effectiveness of it was very well done. And the actress, Bonnie Aarons, I believe is her name, she plays the bum. She also plays Valak in the Conjuring film. So I thought that was kind of just an interesting bit of information. Maybe that's common information, maybe not, but I found it interesting when I figured it out. So so I thought I would talk about that scene a little bit. But that is a very, very well done scene, lots of tension. The scene really became very strong for me when they realized, or at least the one dude realized, that his nightmare was actually now becoming real, when the guy went and stood in that area of the diner where he had stood in the man's dream, and it all kind of and that's when the tension started to build, because even in my own mind I was thinking, okay, now if the guy's standing there just like the dream, so that means eventually he's gonna have to see that horrible man's face. According to the guy talking about the dream, he's gonna have to see this just scary, horrifying face that he never wants to see in real life. Now he's gonna actually have to do that. We're gonna have to do that. And so the scene is just very, very effective on a tension level and in a horror level. I will say that. So I'm actually gonna just cut this review short here, because I don't want to ramble on like I have a tendency to do. What I will say is I did enjoy this movie. I do recommend it, as long as you're a fan of the kind of the surreal in nature. I know David Lynch has directed films like Blue Velvet, which I've only seen part of. That's a movie that I will return to, especially now that I've seen this movie. It does make me want to go back and completely kind of dive into Blue Velvet. He also did the '84 version of Dune, and now I'm more prone to probably go back and check out the '84 version of Dune, because now I have more of a full experience of a David Lynch movie. And so I'm intrigued now. I'll say that. So if you're a fan of David Lynch, you've already seen this movie. But if you happen to have not seen this movie, but you are a fan of David Lynch, check out Mulholland Drive. And I do feel this is a movie that's worthy of a rewatch. And I was told that would be the case, that this is a very rewatchable movie and that you can kind of take something different away from it each time you watch it. So I look forward to watching it. I do think this is one of those films that qualifies as an experience film, where the viewing of it, depending on when you watch it and maybe your state and what's going on, and when I say state, I mean, like, you know, your mental state, your emotional state, just where you're at in time, not your actual, you know, location or whatever. But depending on certain things, I do think this qualifies as an experience, similar to how I talk about Mandy was an experience type film. Watching it felt like an experience. Same thing with I always go back to it, but same thing with Possessor. Just a very kind of experience type energy to it. When it's over, you feel like, yeah, that was something. I just watched something. And that's very much how Mulholland Drive is. So check it out. That's it, you guys. As always, until the next time, I will catch you on the next go round.